Did I ever see myself working 80 hours a week and loving it? Actually enjoying it? No. No way. If you could go back time right now to my college self and look me in the eye and tell me I'd be known as one of the hardest working people of all my friends, I would have laughed in your face. Probably was drunk, but I definitely would have laughed in your face. So how do you go from a beer-pounding party college guy to a diligent, hard-working, successful business person? How do you change all that? Is that drive within all of us right now? I can't answer that for you, but I can tell you that the people I'm sitting in the room with right now, right here, they had that drive. They had that urge. They had that little man on their shoulder telling them, you can do better. You can be successful. You can have anything you want in this world. You can beat anybody. You can be what you want to be. And I'm here to tell you, listeners, that you can be what you want to be. It's not too late. It's never too late to be what you want to be and start that business. Myself, Ryan, Doug, and I, the host of the radio show right here, the Business Happy Hour, we're going to take time out of our extremely busy schedules every single Wednesday at 11 a.m. Right here. We're going to sit together in the studio and we're going to tell you what it takes to be successful in business today. Friends, it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be a millionaire. It may not even be easy, but it is possible. That is what we're going to teach you. If you want it, you can have it. You can be your own boss. You can run your own company. You can set your schedule and you can earn whatever you want to earn, but you have to take the first step. So what can you guys expect from us when you're listening to this show? What is it we're going to bring you? Well, most shows, we're going to introduce you guys to a self-made businessman, many of which are going to be multimillionaires. We might even find a guy with a B next to his name one day. Maybe the first trillionaire on the Business Happy Hour. Those guys are going to come on and they're going to share their personal experiences. They're going to give some advice. Speaking of advice, every single show, in the last segment, we're going to give you guys a business tip of the week. We're going to come up with scenarios both of successes and failures that we have personally experienced, all three of us, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to encourage you to call into the show and discuss your personal experiences. Ask some questions. Contribute to the show. Be a part of the Business Happy Hour. If you guys right now want to be a part of it, or if you have somebody you know who would want to be on the show, who has a good story, good or bad, reach out to us right away. Get a paper and pen. If you're driving, pull over. Write this down. BHH for Business Happy Hour. BHHIHeart@gmail.com. BHHIHeart@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. We want to talk to you. We want to meet you. If you want to call in and chime in on the show, be a part of the show, you can do it. Local number, 813-636-TALK. 813-636-TALK. So since today is our first live show, I figured I'd tell you guys how we got started just for a quick second in radio. And then we're going to take some time to go into our stories, our actual business stories, real stories of three real guys. Today we're going to start with Doug. But first, I'm going to tell you real quick, we started this show over 2 years ago. We started it over at 970 WFLA in that studio. Started the show at a time in 2016 when politics, that was the name of the game. Everybody was talking.
We got in deep.
We got in
Thankfully,
deep.
we're getting out of it.
And that was Doug, by the way. His mic is fixed, guys. So that's Doug Ford right there from Suncoast Roofing Solutions.
Hey, great opening monologue, by the way, Frank. That was nice. And I think that's going to set the tone for the show. You know, I think people are going to get to realize that if you listen to the Business Happy Hour, you're gonna get some phenomenal guests and some insight that they're not going to get anywhere else.
That's right, and that's why we wanted to make this change for our listeners, for everybody. You know, politics, it's always there. We love politics. We still talk.
We are very passionate about our country and about our beliefs, but you know, this is our wheelhouse. This is what we specialize in. This is our zone.
That's
here.
right. That's
entrepreneurship.
Exactly. Entrepreneurship in business. So speaking of that, speaking of entrepreneurship in business, we're gonna go in here in just a minute with Doug Ford. I'm gonna hear his stories. He's gonna tell us some of the failures, some of the experiences. He's gonna tell us what it took to become the successful businessman he is. You know, each one of us, we come from a different walk of life, a different family, a different social status. All these factors have something to do with not only who you are, but how you're going to start a business, how you're going to run a business, and most importantly, how are you going to navigate those obstacles that are going to be put in front of you? And I promise you there'll be many of them before you come to your success. So without wait, Doug Ford, owner of Suncoast Roofing Solutions, my radio co-host on the Business Happy Hour. He's going to tell us a little about his story. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, I mean, we all grow up and we have aspirations. I think, me, I was a golf pro. That's what I want to do my entire life. Played golf my entire life, and I knew I never wanted to work for anybody.
So you made it to the top in golf, technically.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't on a touring pro, but I was a Class A professional. So that was what I wanted to do. I moved to Florida. Before I moved to Florida, obviously I lived in an area called D.C., very affluent area. I got to be around the richest people in the world, and I kind of, I was very middle class. So when you're middle class, you see everyone else around you succeeding, you want to be there. You want to do that. So
was that that was one of your first motivating factors?
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, when you see everything around you bigger and better than what you have, you kind of want, that's what you want.
You want to own the jet, not fuel it.
Exactly. So I moved to Florida as a golf pro. Literally moved to Florida as a golf pro, and now all of a sudden I'm a roofer. So how do you get there?
How the heck does that? How do you play golf every day for a living, and all of a sudden you're banging nails in roofs? Explain that.
Well, I've never banged a nail in a roof.
Well, we have to find out how to do that.
we won't go there. So I was actually I was involved in a real bad car accident about two months after I moved down here. Involved in a car accident. It's what do you do after that? That's the biggest question I had is what am I going to do? Here I am, a golf pro, and now I have to figure out my life. So I started a car custom shop, and I did that for a couple of years and realized I didn't want to do that. Sold that and got into real estate. Real estate in Florida is a little bit different real estate in DC.
What, we're talking about in the 2000s?
Yes.
Oh, great time to get in real estate, Doug.
Well, I mean, in DC we didn't have a recession. What's a recession? So you moved to Florida and all of a sudden this recession hit and all my homes lost like 60-75% value.
Wow. So
it was definitely a tough lesson to learn. From now on, I don't invest in real estate when I see a recession happening. So got into it the wrong time, and I started working for a roofing company, and I watched everything they did right and did wrong, and we know what happened in 07, 08. Pretty much most anyone in the residential construction, a lot of them failed.
Well, they lost their businesses, they lost their jobs,
lost their homes, lost everything. My business partner now used to be my boss, and I watched everything he did right and wrong, and he literally lost everything.
Wow.
And went back to school, got my master's, and so once I got my master's, I realized let's start a roofing company.
So at that point, I'm gonna have you stop right there for a second because we're gonna have to take a break. But at this point, you've lost the career you already had, and you're gonna go into roofing. You'd started with this other guy. That's where we're gonna pick up when we come back on the Business Happy Hour. Is more of Doug Ford's story of how he transitioned his life from a middle-class guy in D.C. to a golf pro to a successful roofing company owner here on the Business Happy Hour. And don't forget, guys, you can ask Alexa to play the Business Happy Hour podcast on iHeartRadio. And if you want to be a part of the show, please call us on our local number, 813-636-TALK, 813-636-TALK. And if you would like to be a guest, you can also email us at bhhiheart@gmail.com. This is Frank with the Business Happy Hour. We'll be back in just a moment.
If you've been in a car crash or suffered an injury, this
the show. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. We love doing this, and we love you listeners. We are going to pick right back up where we left off with my co-host, Doug Ford, owner of Suncoast Roofing Solutions. Doug was telling us his story of growing up in a middle-class family in Washington, D.C., full of politics, full of money up there, money and politics. There you go. And
it was interesting, though, to find out that there's never a recession in D.C. I never thought about it like that.
Well, I mean, think about it. Like, everything in D.C. is big government.
Yeah, I mean, now it makes, I just had never considered it.
You know, the only other place I've ever been with no recession was Miami Beach.
Well, no, Miami had a pretty bad recession.
Well, I was there in like 07, and I was just watching the Lambos go by. So
where we had 50, 60% loss in value in Florida, DC had 10, 15%.
Oh gosh,
take that.
Take that. Yeah, thanks, Doug.
I mean, that's crazy.
I lived in Florida at the time.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I mean, I watched a company with 170 employees go from 15 million to zero.
Wow.
In Florida, we had I think they were dealing with 50 leads a day, down to zero for like 6 months. How do you float a company with that type of overhead? So I just watched everything they did right and wrong, and then after I went back to school, got my master's, I realized, man, I can do this so much better. And that's really honestly how I started my company.
So let me stop you there, because that I have a feeling is going through a lot of people's heads. That is one of what I would say the biggest catalysts that get people to start new businesses. Yep. Is they're sitting in the office where they're working, and they're saying either one or two things: I hate these guys, or I can do this better.
And there's also one of the biggest things for most people is there's a problem to solve.
Right.
And so my problem that I realize I need to be solved is, most every homeowner I talk to, probably 75%, would always tell me they had a bad experience with contractors. And that right there is a problem that needs to be solved. Absolutely.
An opportunity.
If I can make one customer happy at a time, I'll have a successful business. And in college, one of my professors, he always harped on, have the best customer service.
Right.
Have the best customer service, and you always have a successful business. That's really what we've done. I mean, we've been in business 10 years, and I don't think we have one unhappy customer.
I think so many business owners don't realize that the customer service is actually your cheapest form of advertising.
Yeah.
Oh, positively.
I mean,
right?
You lose money on jobs. You may lose a little bit of money. You're still going to make money, but you may lose a bit of money, but you made that customer happy.
Right.
Instead of upsetting them and then having them tell everyone how awful you are, you made them happy by losing a little bit of money.
And what does a happy customer do most of the time?
Refers you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
I mean, we'll do probably $3.54 million this year, and probably $3 million as referrals.
Now, how long ago did you start Suncoast Roofing? What was the backstory on that?
2008, 2009.
2008, 2009.
So right in the middle of the recession.
Wow.
Perfect timing.
So you're sitting there knowing the stats. 80% of businesses are going to fail. My business has an 80% chance of failure. I'm in a recession. Nobody's got money. People are losing their houses. And
but think about this.
It's actually a good time to start.
So think about this. Yes, it is. You look at everything. It's you might fail, but you're going to pick up good employees because they don't have work.
Mm-hmm.
You can get better financing because there's no one's really people that are lending want to give away their stuff, and you're going to pick up market share because a lot of companies are failing.
That's a great point.
So you literally can start from nothing, and we're not a big company. We're a very small, family-oriented company, but we do $3-4 million of high-end tile homes, and we're the best at it. That's pretty much, we try to be the best at what we do. We always research, better ways to do a roof, and we're innovative with what we do, and that's how it works.
Timing is very important.
Absolutely.
You didn't have any failures in that, and you were okay. You got lucky. You came in and
I
say lucky because you're a hard worker.
One thing I always tell people is if you can learn from other people's mistakes before you make them yourself,
right,
is a great lesson. If you're watching people do something wrong, don't do it.
Very true. Very true.
I mean, I watch companies.
I made all my mistakes.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I made plenty of mistakes. I've started multiple companies. I think we talked about it on before the show. Is that I started companies, investing money into companies, but not diving into it.
Right.
Not giving myself into the company and getting involved like I should. And that's one of the biggest lessons you can learn as well. If you're going to start a company, you need to submerge yourself into it. You don't want to be a part-time employee of your own company. You want to get in there and be full-time and get it done yourself.
I completely agree.
And the thing is, it's doing what you say and saying what you do.
Yep.
With business, if you say you're going to do something, just do it. How many times I hear customers say, well, they said they're going to do this, and then they didn't.
Right.
So it's just a simple, easy lesson to learn.
No, you brought up some amazing points, and I've always said that the you have to dig in. When a job goes bad, that's when you have to go by far the extra mile. That's when you have to dig in and you have to claw your way back into the heart of that customer, because if you can focus on doing that every time, like you said,
Yep.
you're never going to have an unhappy customer.
And you'll probably get business.
You're going to get business because of it. You're
Absolutely.
going to get business.
Every customer should get you 2 customers.
Yep. Even if you have to lose, even if you have to pull money out of your pocket to finish the job, and I know you do it too. We all do it. We all do it as business owners. Successful business owners are willing to take money out of their pocket to finish what they started.
Exactly. So Ryan, speaking of finishing what you started, let's talk about your story a little bit. So I've known this guy since Florida State University years in the late 1990s.
Yeah, so that was 22 years ago.
Yeah, God.
22 years
22
ago.
years.
My clock,
Yeah.
22 years
97 we met, right?
97 we met.
Yeah, Sigma Phi Epsilon, fraternity brothers.
That's
and
right.
So like you said in your opening monologue, I would have never thought in a million years. I would have never thought in a million years that we'd be sitting in this room together. But I was always tenacious. I was always a hard worker. When I was going through college, I worked hard in college. I did about 4 years, and then I got offered a job in marketing, actually in Tampa. That's what actually brought me out of college. I was kind of partying a little bit with my boys, and I figured I'm kind of going sideways here. So
Never seen it.
Got a great opportunity, and I said, this sounds like something I need to do. So I took it, and it brought me down to Tampa, and out of just crazy coincidence, the trade centers were attacked in 2001, September 11th. And that's what actually kind of got me pushed towards the plumbing business. And so I'll pick up the rest of my story after in the third segment here.
All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to come back to Ryan Pelky, owner of TampaBay Plumbers, right after the break, and we're going to pick up into his story. Right now, he's about to leave college and go into marketing.
Yeah,
okay?
That's right.
And this is where things start to get exciting. But you guys, what we're going to bring to you in the fourth segment is so exciting. It's the business tip of the week, all right? Whether you're a new business owner, an existing business owner, whatever, you've been doing it for 50 years and you have more experience than all of us combined, I promise you these tips are going to be worth your time. We're going to tell you personal experiences that we've been through, both success and failures, and we encourage your participation. Also, in the last segment, I'm going to give you guys the name of our first in-studio guest, who will be in next week at 11 a.m. right here in studio. I'll give you a teaser. This guy went from dishwasher to the vice president of one of the world's biggest restaurants to the CEO of the #1 restaurant in Tampa Bay. That is his life story. And in the fourth segment, I'm going to tell you who is going to be in studio with us next week. Don't forget to catch our podcast. Just ask Alexa to play the Business Happy Hour podcast on iHeartRadio. We will be back in just a minute with more of Ryan Pelky's story.
Now, at 1250 W.
premier show if you want to know how to start a business, make change in your business, get into the business, anything business or entrepreneurial related. You are listening to the right show. In the last segment, we are hearing from one of our co-hosts, Ryan Pelky, the owner of TampaBay Plumbers, a friend of mine since 1997. Ryan, you were telling us your story was ending with you leaving Florida State and being offered a job in marketing. Marketing. I can't even think of you as a marketing guy because I know what you do now. but that up.
Yeah, and that was actually a great experience for me. It was great experience for me. But this is where my story begins. But before I really get into it, I want to ask every one of our listeners, everyone in the building, basically. Has struggles at work. Everyone can relate to this. Where you go when you get hired on at a job, you're promised certain things, right? Your employer gives you this, they say that. Sometimes some of those things aren't met. Sometimes you have frustrations with other employees, and you get to the point sometimes where you might want to quit, go do something else. So when you're listening to us now, I want you to consider: are you the type of person that's going to quit and go find another job, or are you going to quit and take the experiences and know that you can do it better and start something else on your own? If you're that second type of person, you're an entrepreneur, and you could have what it takes to do anything. You could be limitless what you could possibly do. And if you're that type of a person, you have to listen to the Business Happy Hour, because I promise you, we're going to be able to give you a lot of tools to help you on your journey.
Yeah, it's always figuring out when you want to take the plunge. That's one of the hardest decisions you have to make.
Is there ever a right time to do that, Doug?
And the risk, it's such a huge risk, and it takes a lot of guts.
I think there. I definitely think there is right timing. I mean,
positively. I like your story. I think that was actually beautiful timing. What would have been way worse is if you started 3 years before the boom, and then bought excessively. And then we're leveraged.
And I watch guys do it.
My story includes some of that, so I'm going to get to my story. But when I started working, I had 3 different employers in my beginning of my career. All of them I had disappointments at. Finally, I decided, you know what? This is just not working for me. I know I can do this. I can do all this better. I'm working harder. I'm getting paid the same. It just doesn't seem right. So I bought a book from Barnes & Noble. I went to Barnes & Noble.
Does that place even exist anymore?
Yeah, it still does. It still does. Went and bought a book called How to Start a Business in the State of Florida. Swear to God. It's about this big paperback. And I read it. I must have read it 10 times. And I took notes. I created an action plan down from what am I going to do first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way down to obtaining insurance for the company. And then I just did it. I was 22 years old when I wrote the plan. I was 23 when I enacted it. I didn't even have a license when I started my business. I was rogue. I did.
Should we edit that part?
No, it's true. You know what? You got to be, like I said, you got to be able to take a risk. I thought I was going to have my license by the time I got started, but lo and behold, it takes a long time for the Department of Business and Professional Regulation to give those licenses out.
I passed the same exact thing.
I passed my master test. And I was naive, and I thought, gosh, I'm gonna walk out of that test with my license. Then I realized, no. You actually have to. It takes months to get your license.
You have to take the test and send it in, right?
Yeah. Well, you have to take it. You have to fill out a 14-page application.
The state of Florida isn't very long. It's a very long process,
and they're slow. So nowadays, I could get it pushed through very quickly,
right?
Because I know a certain way to do it. So, but you learn things over the years, and that's what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know when you get started. Let me just put it that way.
That's right.
And I'll tell you, the younger you are, the better a chance you have of starting your company, because you got the more risk you have, the more you have to lose, the more you might consider not taking that risk. So, I started off at what I thought was a great time at the time. It was 2003. There was a housing boom in effect, and I rode that wave from 0 employees to 75 employees by the time I was about 26 years old. It was crazy.
Wow.
It was absolutely crazy. And I did it with, like I said, tenacity. I worked all the time.
Well, I was right there with you. I actually remember. See, I didn't know you read the book. I had no clue about that. I wasn't sitting with you on that beach when you were reading the book. But I do remember Ryan coming to me and telling me that I was one of the first people that he sat down with, because I had just started my company a couple of years before, and he sat me down and gave me an investment proposal.
Yep, it was before I got started.
Right.
And we created an investment basically brochure, and it showed kind of what we were forecasting doing. And
it was a whole plan. It was the entire business plan.
Yep, it was a business plan.
The money, everything.
Yep. And we had, I believe we had 5 initial investors at $1,000 each. So I got $5,000 to start my first company. And I did it. And by the end of the first year, we were doing about $80,000 in revenue a month, which was 8 months later. We continued that rapid growth right through for 3 years, and we were named, we were number 489 in the rank of fastest growing businesses in America. I think it was Business Journal or whatever.
That's what, the Inc. 500?
Inc. 500, yeah,
Yep.
Inc. 500. So we made the Inc. 500. Now they have the Inc. 5000. But anybody can make the Inc. 5000. I made Inc. 500 when it was actually a real deal.
There's only 4,800 businesses started a year.
So, on the unfortunate side of that rapid growth, because I didn't have a lot of capital, was I took on a lot of debt, and I had accumulated about $2.5 million of debt, and so when the housing market collapsed. I thought we were going to be a lot more recession proof, and surprisingly, we weren't. So I went from 75 employees down to 6. My revenue went from $600,000 a month to under $100,000 a month. So I was forced to file bankruptcy, and the one thing that I'm most proud about filing bankruptcy was the very next day I started TampaBay Plumbers. My phone's never turned off. Okay, I went from Drain Doctors one day to TampaBay Plumbers the next. Yeah, I didn't have any of my assets anymore, but they couldn't take one thing away from me: my experience and my customer base. Nobody could take that from me. So the first month that I started TampaBay Plumbers, I did $100,000 in revenue, and I haven't looked back since.
Wow,
and now
that's awesome. Now
we have the highest rated plumbing company in Tampa, by far, not by a little bit, by a long shot. You can read our reviews; they speak for themselves. And I'm very proud of the guys that we have that are working for us now. And I think that one of the things that I'm happiest about, as I advance my career, is the ability to be able to help the employees that work for me and to give them an opportunity, the opportunity that I didn't see when I first started working at those 3 businesses that I